Placing yourself behind the wheel of a Bentley is a remarkably special occasion. Put your hands on that wheel, be it in one of their beautiful road cars of any age, incredibly 80% of which are still on the road, or, if you're particularly fortunate, one of their breathtakingly well-engineered race cars, and there you have it, you are connected. Connected to over 100 years of motoring history and heritage. 102 years later, we sit here up at M Sport's stunning facility, Dovenby Hall, and we see ourselves at a place and in a situation that we could never even have dreamed of. Go back to the early days of the brand, those famous asymmetric wings created in 1919, shortly after the brand's inception, really meant something. They meant even more after the famous Bentley boys won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 5 times in just 8 years. These chaps literally raced a train from Cannes to Calais as a £100 bet, and not only beat the train, but crossed the English Channel and finished up in London before the train even arrived in Calais. Truly the stuff of legends. They pioneered the use of aluminium pistons, built the famous blower with its enormous exposed supercharger, and how can anybody forget the utter madness and sheer genius of the Speed 8, which of course went on to win Le Mans in 2003, after Bentley's 73-year hiatus from racing. Building on average around 9,000 cars a year, it's an absolute privilege to own one. To me, the Bentley is like art. Really, really fast, achingly beautiful art. And the noise, I mean, the phrase "bring the thunder" was invented for a highly valid reason. Rick Parfitt Jr. once described the GT3 car as going like lightning and sounding like thunder. So we were exceptionally fortunate to spend time in the 2019 season to see these cars up close and personal in British GT. And I'm not only biased because we also own one, but there's absolutely nothing in the field of cars that looked and sounded anywhere near as good. I mean, nothing with a sense of theatre. Like, it's a car that defies physics. You have a Continental GT side by side with Lamborghinis and McLarens, and which are beautiful cars, but the Bentley just had so much presence. You know, you see and hear, and you get that feeling in your gut. You got those shivers. Absolute audio and visual perfection. I remember staying up at night when Bathurst 12 Hour was on, and I think my partner was a bit annoyed with me, but I was absolutely glued to my TV and my phone, and it was so hot there. The guys would get out the car and be straight into ice baths, and they'd be chucking electrolytes down their necks to stay hydrated. After all the bad luck they'd had before in previous endurance races, when they won, for me it was just sheer joy. You know, it's the only way I can describe it. So if you take a step back, you look back at over 100 years of pedigree and history, and then take a look at, you know, me and what we do. We're just a small team that started a brand to help motorsport, and we just kind of wanted to do time attack, you know, but for us there was always this thing about the bigger picture, you know, and we're really aware of that. So a good driver coach will teach you to always look ahead and not just right in front of you. You know, you look way ahead, trace back, look way ahead, trace back, and you do that over and over, thinking ahead all the time. You know, thinking of the future for us has worked out, you know, pretty well so far. But with this project, I genuinely found myself questioning whether it was the right thing to do. And I'm sat here now telling this story really because of two guys, you know, two of the most genuine, hard-working, down-to-earth and well-respected guys in motorsport. These two guys started me and us on a journey, and they've really looked after us along the way. And those two guys are Matt and Ollie Clark. And I'll tell you what, it's kind of ironic. I remember going back to think back to the early to mid-2000s and the first time that I ever saw Gobstopper 1. And I'm going to say something a little bit weird here. It was how clean and well presented the car was. It was up on its air jacks, and the insides of the wheel arches was so damn clean, and that really drew me in. I thought to myself, you know, one day I want to be there. I want to be that professional. And whatever it was, 15 or so years later, we not only work together and we have so much fun together, but I know there's two guys that, really have my back and our team's back. So we wanted to do time attack. We had very little time comparatively, and we needed a solution that would work. So Matt came to me and had to deliver an absolute hammer blow. He said, if you want this plan to work and in the time frame you need, you've basically got to sell everything you have race car wise and start again and buy a factory car, and not just any factory car, but you need to buy a Bentley GT3 race car. So I pretty much fell off my chair. I was like, Matt, you are crazy. Like seriously, I respect you, but Jesus, that is actually that's kind of a good idea. Like, here's a guy who really knows his stuff, and him and Ollie have won Goodwood twice. They've dominated time attack every time they've taken part, and they run a seriously well-oiled business. So yeah, we speak the same language. And that was that. We visited Matthew and Malcolm at M Sport, and we ended up buying a brand new Gen 2 car. We were in fact the first non-factory team to take delivery. We bought a brand new factory race car, and this is like real, like once in a lifetime stuff. And we painted the chassis in brilliant Subaru white, and we ran the car unrestricted, and we put Pirelli super soft tyres on it, and the car was just an absolute work of art. And hands down, the scariest day of my life was driving that car for the very first time. It was a bitterly cold day at Blyton Park, early 2019, and it was literally just to get used to the controls, bearing in mind I've never driven a proper race car in my life prior to that. And here was me sitting in this, absolute work of art, getting ready to compete in a few months' time. And I really thought to myself, what am I doing? Round one came round, so quickly, and the final and most important session of the day took place in the pouring rain, fluid all over the circuit, and we were at Cadwell Park, which is not the car's natural environment. But we came away with a class win. Next we were at Brands. We narrowly missed out on an overall FTD because I got a little overexcited going through clearways. I was looking at the predictive time, and we were actually just about to beat the current lap record, and I ended up putting the car on the gravel, which was not my finest moment. Autumn was a real turning point. I built up a bit more experience, we bagged our first FTD, and I might have had a little secret tear to myself that day.
Must have felt like being here.
Yeah, that was wild. It is so fast.
Yeah.
What a mental car. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah,
fantastic. Really good drive though, really sensible, and you just did exactly what you needed to do and when you needed to do it. It's brilliant. Yeah. Really good. I can't believe how far we've come.
Oh, it's in like a real short space of time as well. Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah, absolutely blown away. Yeah, so feeling a bit emotional. Wicked, mate. Thank you so much.
Have a swig.
Will do.
That was really good.
And that's the thing with this car, it's such a sense of occasion every time you get into it. It's the way it makes you feel, it's the smell, it's just everything about it. It's absolutely intoxicating. So every single time the car went out, the guys at RCM would prep the car for its next outing, and like you wouldn't believe, hand on heart, it was like getting into a brand new car every single time, and that's what really brought this sense of occasion. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. That year, 2019, we really did some incredible stuff. We took the car to Coventry Motorfest and we drove it on the streets in the sprint. We put Seb Morris in the car for a few sessions around Alton, and he went out first session on some pretty well used slicks, and he beat the British GT lap record by over 2 seconds. The car was just obscenely fast. But every single time I got into the car, it was always in the back of my mind, when is the last time going to be? When is the last time I'm going to drive this car? And when it is that time, will I even know? So the whole way through the year, I was really fortunate. I had Paul Blamire helping me on data. He'd say stuff to me like, you need to go through that corner quicker, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. And he'd be like, no, I mean, you need to go like 30k quicker through there. So, it's obscenely fast, but you've just got to put your trust in these guys. So there was quite a lot of holding the steering wheel and squinting, but it all paid off. And I can't tell this little story without talking about Jules too. So Jules is the guy who I mean, the guy's an absolute legend. He coached me through the entire season, and we would compete at an event, and he'd come over to me at the end, and he'd be, he'd be like, well done, fella. And he probably still doesn't know how meaningful those words were to me, and still are now. So myself and Jules set ourselves a target for the end of the season. We were running an extra 200 horsepower compared to the race cars that race door to door. And our plan was to be on par with pro times by the end of the season. And Snetterton weekend, last weekend of the year for Time Attack, it was towards the end of 2019. In practice, we absolutely destroyed the 300 circuit, all out Time Attack lap record by over 7 seconds. And come race day, it just wasn't to be, it was just too wet. The next day on the 200 circuit, we pushed, and we managed to just pip the record by half a second, which was kind of bittersweet. It was great to get the record. The previous record for the 200 circuit was set by Phil Reed, who is someone that I actually, really respect and have always looked up to. So that day, that final day of Snetterton was full of emotion. The last day of what was a brilliant year, surrounded by fantastic people. And I say, yeah, it was bittersweet because we had my good friend Tess Whittock. She did a first-class job in the BMW, and to sort of round the day off, we had fireworks and all sorts of stuff. It was just it was just phenomenal, and we'd come through the season with a first-class team that really looked after us as a team and me as a driver. But this car and I, we have a connection. It really looked after me. It's like it would kind of look back at me like Jules did and just sort of say, well done, fella. And those events, those times with the RCM guys, they were really some of the best times in my life. Lifelong memories. And that was it. That last round at Snetterton, that was the last time I ever drove the car, and I didn't even know it. I had set myself, a fairly high expectation for the following season. I knew that from a personal point of view, I really needed to up my game. I needed to learn quicker than ever, and push myself harder than ever before if we were to compete in that car again. So myself and Matt had a cheeky little plan. We wanted to make some minor adjustments to the car to get a little bit more fuel into the engine and squeeze a touch more power out of it, as you do. But it was never meant to be. We never got to carry out our little plan, and obviously 2020 was just a wipeout for motorsport, and that was that. And normally, if you'd heard that, you'd probably be thinking, well, wait, is that it? Is that the end of the story? And no, it really isn't. The car isn't done, not quite yet anyway. So we were sat in a meeting room up at Bentley Motorsport. We had a pretty low-key and relaxed end-of-season review, and I personally went into this meeting with literally zero expectation, and if anything, I just wanted to say how much we enjoy working with the car and with Bentley, albeit a little bit indirectly. And then they kind of hit us with it, as we explained things, explained things that we were doing throughout the season. They already knew. I mean, the guys had literally seen everything we did, and suffice to say, we weren't expecting that at all. Then out of nowhere, so we heard those words, so we have some projects planned, and we would like to ask you if you would like to be involved. So there's me thinking, oh my word, this is amazing. We can maybe make some cool videos with Bentley, perhaps, and get involved with the brand. Now, bearing in mind, Bentley hold records at Pikes Peak for fastest production car and for fastest SUV, and Pikes Peak is something I've always wanted to just be part of for as long as I can remember. Then came the words, we would like to go back to Pikes Peak, and there's me thinking, oh my god, they're going to ask if we can do some media around them going back. And the next sentence literally blew me away. I mean, full on lump in the throat stuff. I entered the world of the surreal. We would like to go back to Pikes Peak. Could we possibly use your car and work on the project with you? And it was like every Christmas all at once. If you're not a petrol head, you just won't understand what a huge deal this is, for us. I don't know whether to, well, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that point. You know, I just had to do my best poker face and accept. And that drive back home was a day I'll never forget. You know, I really can't describe how surreal it was. But then my phone didn't ring. You know, nobody from Bentley called me to say, actually, you know, perhaps it's not a good idea. You know, maybe we shouldn't do it. And a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and nobody called to say it wasn't happening. And then it started. The development started on the car. And that's when it really hit me, you know, wow, we might actually be going to Pikes Peak. You know, Rhys Millen, Pikes Peak legend and all-round good guy, is probably going to drive our car. I think back to a teacher I had when I was 10, you know, really mean woman, absolutely hated me. She always used to belittle me in front of the class and accuse me of having my head in the clouds, but now I have the chance to have my head quite literally above them. Now, I can't go into too much detail on the car in terms of specification, but what I can do is show you what it looks like. It's pretty common knowledge that the Bentley GT3 factory program has come to an end. You know, we live in an ever-changing world. There is increasing pressure to be more environmentally friendly and conscious, and this puts enormous strain on the automotive industry as we know it. And much as we love the internal combustion engine, we find ourselves at a crossroads, and the path is not yet set. This car, this very car, could well be the final hurrah. This could be the last ever factory-supported Bentley to run a conventional internal combustion engine. But there is a glimmer of hope. And whilst the future is not set, there are incredibly creative people in the industry trying to find alternative methods to power our much beloved cars. And that's what makes this car a little bit more special. Not only will it take part in the world's most challenging and treacherous hill climb, which absolutely oozes history, but it will do so running synthetic fuel. And the use of e-fuel actually makes the record attempt completely carbon neutral and could well be the sliver of hope we all dreamt of. We've run the car 3 times so far, very gingerly, made some adjustments, and my God, it is fast. At a recent test, the car actually broke the lap record for the circuit we were at by over a second, and that was on a lowish power setting running hard compound tyres. So we really find ourselves asking the question, could this be the world's fastest Bentley? I mean, yeah, there are Bentley drag cars, but this, we're talking here a car that can actually go around corners. Over the coming weeks and months, the story will unfold. We want to let you in and show you behind the scenes as we embark on what could well be history in the making. Is this car going to become an icon? And who knows, will we create lifelong friends and memories? Yeah, absolutely. We know the car is quick. It may be quick enough to achieve some, all-out lap records here in the UK, which would mean coming back to Time Attack to attempt those, which would also mean putting somebody seriously quick in the car. And I need to be realistic. I'm not as quick as a professional driver, so yeah, it's quite possible I may never drive this car again. But to be part of this, all this potential history in the making, all the fun we've had and will continue to have, it is absolutely worth it. So I will say goodbye for now, but not farewell. Be sure to stay tuned.